It started without warning, a tear in reality, pulsing with a cold, unknown energy. Similar gates began appearing across the globe, silent observers hanging in the sky over every horizon. At first, they seemed harmless. People went about their lives, treating the phenomenon as nothing more than a background curiosity. No one knew the cause, and the lack of immediate danger bred a dangerous sense of security. But as the numbers grew, so did the underlying tension. Over 20 gates had been confirmed in the nation alone. Academics scrambled to study them, theorizing about alien life and parallel dimensions from the safety of their rooftops. They had no idea they were looking directly into the mouth of a predator. Down on the ground, life was still a grind. For Han Yu-jin, the end of a shift was just another milestone in a long day. He worked harder than anyone on the moving crew, a man driven by a singular, selfless goal. He didn't mind the sweat or the long hours. Every box moved was another step toward a future he wouldn't share. His coworkers saw his dedication, tossing him water and a nod of respect for his relentless pace. Yu-jin was the kind of man who would break his own back to keep the people he loved standing tall. All those earnings, every cent was earmarked for his younger brother's college tuition. He had dropped out himself, sacrificing his own education to ensure his brother never had to struggle the way he did. To Yu-jin, his brother was everything, the one bright spot in a life defined by manual labor. He would show off the kid to anyone who would listen. Tall, handsome, and brilliant, the perfect success story.
The pride in his voice was unmistakable, even over the noise of the job site. He would ramble about his brother's perfect grades and how the kids still called him Hyun after all these years. He was his brother's biggest fan. He was already planning a celebration, a simple barbecue to reward the kid for another semester of hard work. On the other side of the city, that brother was just trying to get home, his hands steady despite the strange energy in the air. The commute was routine, but the atmosphere on the bus was shifting into something heavy and suffocating. Above the skyline, the blue glow of the gate began to flicker, changing into something far more violent. Yu-jin was still on the clock, riding in the back of the truck and oblivious to the atmospheric shift. He was busy keeping the mood light with his team, unaware that his world was about to end. Then his boss pointed it out. Something was fundamentally wrong with the sky. The blue gate had turned a bruised, bleeding red. It looked ominous, like a wound about to burst open. Yu-jin tried to stay positive, even joking that it might be some kind of blessing in disguise, but his gut was already turning. The air felt charged, metallic. The color wasn't just changing, the very fabric of reality around the gate was fracturing like glass. The red light intensified, spiderwebbing across the atmosphere in a terrifying display of power. Then came the impact. A sound like a thunderclap that nearly shook the moving truck off the road. They thought it was a collision, some reckless driver hitting them from behind in the panic.
Yu-jin hopped out to check the damage, expecting a simple fender bender and an insurance claim. Instead, he found a nightmare, a massive avian monstrosity with red eyes and a dripping, jagged maw. The terror was immediate and paralyzing. This wasn't supposed to happen. The creature didn't belong in this world. It was a predator from a void that humanity wasn't prepared to face. Before he could even process the threat, the beast lunged with impossible speed. The truck was torn apart like wet paper. This wasn't an accident. It was the beginning of an invasion. Chaos erupted instantly. Screams for help were drowned out by the screeching of monsters and the sound of rending metal. Yu-jin stared in paralyzed shock. The harmless gates had finally revealed their true purpose. In the reflection of his own eyes, he saw the end of the world as he knew it. These were dungeons, and they were vomiting death into the streets in droves. The sky was filled with them. The phenomenon had a terrifying new name, a dungeon break. When a gate is left unattended, it reaches a supersaturation, and then it bursts, letting the monsters through. The city became a slaughterhouse. Tens of thousands were dead or injured within the first hour of the shock. Eugen's boss was pinned at the mercy of one of the flying beasts. Eugen couldn't just stand by. He grabbed the first thing he could find, a piece of scrap wood, ready to die fighting for the people who had been kind to him. He was outmatched and completely human, facing down a creature from a nightmare. But he wasn't the only one pushed to the edge. Sometimes survival triggers something deeper. In the heat of the slaughter, a surge of power erupted from the boss's wife. A blinding blue light signaled a change in the human genome. She didn't just fight, she overpowered the monster with superhuman strength, her body evolving in real time. This was the awakening. Humanity was forced to evolve or go extinct. These newly awakened individuals would become the world's new shield, hunters, a new occupation for a broken world. The era of the dungeon had begun, and with it a new hierarchy of power where only the strong survived. Amidst the rubble and the fire, people watched in awe as the first true heroes emerged from the civilian ranks, but none were quite like the one standing on the bridge, surrounded by the charred remains of the invaders. Pitch-black flames licked the air, consuming everything they touched with a terrifying absolute heat. Eugen's brother, Han Yu-hyun, had awakened as the world's first S-rank hunter. The world was burning, and he was the one holding the torch. 8 years have passed since the world changed, and Seoul has become the epicenter of a new, brutal reality. It started with a question only a few could answer: the status window. A digital interface etched into the retinas of the awakened, invisible to everyone else. For people like Choi Yumi, it felt like being dropped into a video game. Skills were no longer fiction, they were tools for survival, displayed clearly for the user to master. With a single thought, she could manifest nature itself, turning a concrete jungle into a literal one. These abilities turned ordinary citizens into heroes who could save lives in an instant. But the origin of these powers was a dark one. 8 years ago, Yumi was just another person struggling to find work during the dungeon shock. She awakened her vine growth skill out of desperation, using it to rescue those trapped in collapsing ruins. It was a stroke of luck that changed her life, or so she thought. She became a professional hunter, joining a small guilds to raid the dungeons appearing across the city. The incentive was simple: money. Everything inside a dungeon is a resource waiting to be harvested. High-rank dungeons are gold mines for S-rank hunters, the elite few at the top of the food chain. Among them, Han Yu-hyun stands alone, a high school student who awakened into a god-tier class. He went from a poor orphan to the world's youngest guild leader, followed by a sea of cameras and flashing lights. At 25, his wealth is beyond comprehension. He is the ultimate success story of the hunter era. But for every Yu-hyun, there are thousands of Yumis. For an E-rank, getting rich is a fantasy. She just wanted to pay her siblings' school fees. Small dreams in a high-stakes world. The dream ended abruptly. A newsflash announced her death during a routine raid. Despite the healers and the hospitals, she couldn't be saved. This is the side of the industry the cameras don't show. The drinking, the despair, and the constant fear of being the next headline. Under a bridge in Seoul, a new gate flickers to life, humming with deadly energy. The raid is about to begin, but the mood is far from heroic. The mercenaries are on edge, and they've found an easy target to vent their frustrations on. They're demanding to know why a useless addition was brought along for this raid. Meet Han Yu-jin, F-rank, known as the nurturer but treated as nothing more than a burden. He's practically begging for a spot in the dungeon, promising buffs just to be allowed to enter. To the other hunters, he's just cheap labor, the bottom of the barrel. Rumors follow him like a plague. They say he's a jinx, a parasite who survives while his entire team gets wiped out. They pull up articles on their phones, mocking his personal life. They cross a line when they mention his brother, Han Yu-hyun. The star doesn't even visit him in the hospital. Yu-jin snaps. He might be weak, but he won't let these thugs mouth off about his family. His eyes burn with a quiet, dangerous fury. The D-rank hunter, a guy named Sioku, just laughs it off. He enjoys the reaction. A brutal kick to the gut sends Yujin sprawling. In this world, rank is everything. Sioku hoists him up by the collar, making sure everyone sees the difference in their power. To a D rank, an F rank like Yujin is less than human. He mocks Yujin, telling him to go cry to his famous brother if he thinks life is unfair. Yujin coughs, clutching his chest. The physical pain is nothing compared to the humiliation. But while he's down, he's not just hurting, he's working. The guild leader approaches, putting on a show of sympathy for the cameras or the crew. He uses a minor skill to strengthen Yujin's body, a temporary fix for the beating he just took. He acts like a benevolent boss, but his words are laced with condescension. He tells Yujin to know his place, to hold back and let the real hunters do the work. Yujin looks up and smiles. It's a submissive, grateful mask that hides his true intent. He thanks the leader, playing the part of the pathetic F rank to perfection. A firm handshake seals the deal. The leader thinks he's just secured a loyal dog. Yujin tells him he's the only one who recognizes his value. Inside, he's already won. He pulls away, leaning on his crutches. Suddenly, the guild leader's attitude shifts. He snaps at the bully, defending Yujin with uncharacteristic ferocity. A new window appears. Subject influence confirmed. Guild leader Lim Se-woo has been added to the list. The manipulation is complete. With his target under control, Yujin limps toward the gate. He has a skill that makes him the most dangerous man in the room. Deep inside a standard D-rank dungeon, the air is thick with the scent of damp earth and static mana. Low-level monsters like these cave bats are usually just target practice for experienced hunters. A few well-placed spells and some heavy shielding are all it takes to turn a swarm into a pile of loot. The party moves forward with a dangerous level of confidence. In their eyes, this is just another routine run with zero risk. They laugh about the dungeon shock they felt back when they were rookies, mocking the very idea of fear. In a low-rank zone like this, magic stones are the only thing that matters, pure profit with minimal effort. The haul is decent, even D-rank stones add up when you're clearing hundreds of them in a single afternoon. But for some, the dungeon isn't a playground, it's a labor camp. The high rankers take the glory, while the F ranks do the dirty work. Han Yujin finds a small stone, but even this scrap of hope is immediately snatched away by the greed of his peers. He's told to keep mining or starve. To the others, he's barely human. He's just a tool to maximize their margins. The humiliation is constant. They treat him like a jester, a servant, someone beneath notice. Yujin hums a bitter tune to drown out the insults. He's the Cinderella of the hunter world, but there's no fairy godmother coming to save him. Every strike of the pickaxe is a reminder of how far he's fallen and the life he was forced to leave behind. It started years ago. While he was stuck in the mundane world, his younger brother awakened as a god among men. He tried to warn his brother to protect him from the dangers of the dungeons, but his words carried no weight. While Yujin was away serving his country, his brother built World's Edge, the strongest guild in the nation. The gap between them became an unbridgeable chasm. One was a national hero, the other a ghost of the past. Desperation is a powerful motivator. Yujin couldn't stand being left in the shadows while his brother reached the summit. He prayed for his own awakening, hoping for a miracle that would put them back on equal footing. He fell for the lies of a broker, spending everything he had on the promise of an S-rank awakening. Instead, he got the lowest grade possible, F rank. The world didn't show him mercy. The media crucified him, labeling him a parasite who was trying to ride his brother's coattails. Debt piled up and his reputation was shredded. Every mistake he made was broadcast to the world as a failure of character. He was brought low, kneeling in the dirt, surrounded by the evidence of his own incompetence. The shame was suffocating, especially when he looked into the eyes of the person he cared about most. His brother didn't look at him with love or concern. There was only cold, hard disappointment. The words cut deeper than any monster's claw. He was told he was nothing but a weight dragging everyone down. Even when he was crippled in a dungeon, his brother refused to help. No healers, no sympathy. The mandate was clear: live quietly and stop being a burden. The hunter world had no place for a broken F rank. He was cast out, left to rot in the silence of his own failure. The sound of his crutch hitting the floor was the final punctuation on a life that had lost its meaning. Back in the present, Eugen accepts his role. He is the parasite. He is the incompetent one. He wears the mask of a loser because it's easier than fighting back. A pathetic grin is the only defense he has left. He's been thrown away, and he's learned to live with the trash. He watches his brother's back from a distance, a reminder of everything he will never be. Survival in these dungeons shouldn't be possible for someone like him, but he has one secret. It's a skill most would call useless, a title that sounds more like a hobby than a weapon. He is a nurturer, an ability meant to influence and support those around him, rather than fight for himself. He spent his life raising his brother, pouring everything into someone else's growth. He used his friendliness to open hearts, acting as the grease in the gears of more powerful teams. A simple keyword like cheer up is all it takes to trigger his influence. He provides small buffs, minor boosts to growth that most hunters don't even notice. It's the bare minimum support of an F rank. He never thought this skill would be his salvation. He was just trying to be useful in a world that didn't want him. But in moments of total annihilation, when his teammates were being slaughtered around him, something changed. He survived when he shouldn't have. It wasn't luck, and it wasn't because he was hiding in the back. There is a dark, hidden side to the Nurturer title, a skill designed for the worst-case scenario. Suddenly, the system interface flashes. A skill he hasn't seen in years is activating right now. His heart hammers against his ribs. The timing makes no sense. This is supposed to be a safe D-rank run. He feels the mana surging through his limbs, his stats doubling in an instant. The air around him begins to vibrate with raw power. The light is blinding. He can feel himself getting stronger, faster, more lethal than he's ever been.
This is the final requital, the ultimate insurance policy for a support class. But the power comes with a heavy realization. He's sweating, trembling, because he knows what this means. His pickaxe drops. The surge of strength is a death knell for someone else in this cave. He scrambles through the dark, his injured leg barely keeping up with his new, frantic pace. The skill allows him to temporarily double and use the abilities of those under his influence. If they are fast, he becomes twice as fast. If they are strong, he becomes a titan. It's the reason he's the only one who ever walks out of a massacre. But it's an unlucky skill, a cursed advantage that only triggers under one specific condition. The targets of his nurturer influence have to be removed from the board. He sees the faces of the people he was just working with, now marked for deletion by the system. He steps into a puddle of warm, thick blood. The silence in the tunnel is more terrifying than any scream. Final requital only activates when the subject dies. The power he feels is fueled by the lives of his comrades. The boss of his mining crew is down, his life extinguished in an instant by something far beyond their level. Eugen's eyes widen as he realizes the scale of the disaster. This isn't a D-rank dungeon anymore. A desperate plea for help echoes through the cavern, but it's already too late. A nightmare made flesh has invaded the zone. This is Rauktar's, the poison and cursed Dragon King. Hunters are being torn apart like paper. There is no defense against a rank 1 entity in a low-level crawl.
The arrogance of the party has been met with absolute carnage. They blamed Eugen for being an ominous guy, and now they're paying the price in blood. The slaughter is systematic. The dragon isn't just killing, it's erasing them from existence. Rauktar's is a rank 1 dragon, a creature that shouldn't even exist in this part of the world, let alone this dungeon. It is an unkillable force of nature. As Eugen stands amidst the wreckage of his team, he realizes he's the only thing left between the dragon and the exit.
A rank 1 dragon in the middle of a D-rank dungeon. This is a tactical nightmare. A creature like this shouldn't even exist here, let alone be hunting a low-rank mining crew.
Eugen stares death in the face. He's outclassed, outgunned, and cornered in a place where no help is coming.
The Rauchtars isn't just a monster, it's a catastrophe. Every instinct in Eugen's body is screaming at him to move, but the pressure of a high-rank predator is paralyzing. It lunges. The speed is impossible for a creature that size, turning the cavern into a kill zone in a split second. Desperate, Eugen triggers the skill he inherited from his fallen boss, body strengthening. It's his only play to survive the next 10 seconds. He forces his broken body into a sprint. The skill doubles his physical output, but even at maximum capacity, he's barely staying ahead of the dragon's shadow. His mind races, calculating every possible exit. In a dungeon this size, there aren't many places a man can hide from a dragon. He spots a narrow opening in the ruins. If he can wedge himself in there, the dragon might not be able to follow quickly enough for a lethal strike. The monster strikes before he can reach cover. A massive tail swipe tears through the stone pillars like they're made of glass. Eugen is caught in the shockwave. The force of the impact alone is enough to shatter bone, even with his defense skills active. The dragon isn't done. It lets out a roar that shakes the very foundation of the dungeon, announcing the inevitable end of its prey. Eugen tries to brace himself, but the power gap is too wide. He can see the beast preparing for a final, crushing blow. The tail whips around again, a blur of scales and raw muscle designed for one thing: total annihilation. He's sent flying across the cavern, his body skipping across the jagged floor like a stone. The pain is blinding. Blood spatters the ground. This isn't a fight anymore, it's a slaughter, and he's the only one left to die. He gasps for air, coughing up blood. Every breath feels like he's inhaling broken glass. He's reached his limit.
The Rauchtars looms over him, eyes glowing with a cold, predatory intelligence. It knows he's finished. In his final moments, the memories of his crew bleed into reality. He sees the boss trying to save them, failing just as he is failing now. He remembers the desperation, the screams, and the absolute helplessness of being a low-rank hunter in a world built for the elite. The dragon's strike is a blur of red and black. He closes his eyes, waiting for the impact that will finally end it. The blood of his comrades is all he can see in his mind. The cycle of failure is complete. Eugen collapses, his vision fading. He can't even crawl away anymore. His legs are completely unresponsive. The dragon opens its maw, preparing to incinerate whatever is left of the man on the floor. The heat is unbearable. He stares into the throat of the beast. This is the end of his story, a forgotten casualty in a D-rank hole. He waits for the fire, for the darkness, for anything to stop the agony of his broken body. The dragon roars, a deafening sound that signals the final execution. Eugen flinches, bracing for the heat of the dragon's breath to consume him. A massive explosion rocks the cavern, but the fire doesn't reach him. Something has intercepted the attack. Through the smoke and dust, a figure stands tall. Han Yu-hyun, the S-rank brother he thought had left him behind, has arrived. Yu-hyun doesn't look back. He steps between his brother and the dragon, his presence alone shifting the atmosphere of the entire dungeon. Eugen can barely believe it. His brother is actually here, standing in the middle of a disaster zone for him. The Rauchtars doesn't care about ranks. It sees a new threat and prepares to engage with everything it has. Eugen activates his signature skill, Blue Willow Leaves. Glowing blades of mana manifest around him, sharp enough to cut through reality itself. He moves. It's not a run, it's a blur of S-rank efficiency. He's engaging all three heads of the dragon simultaneously. His blade ignites with a dark violet energy. This is the pinnacle of human evolution, a hunter who can stand against a rank 1 disaster. Every strike is calculated. Every movement is a masterclass in tactical combat. He's carving through the dragon's scales like they're nothing. The sheer power on display is terrifying. Eugen isn't just fighting, he's dominating the battlefield. Eugen watches from the dirt, mesmerized and terrified. He's seeing the true gap between an S-rank and the rest of the world. But something is wrong. Eugen is being too defensive. He's staying too close to Eugen instead of taking the fight to the beast.
The dragon senses the weakness. It ignores the hunter and aims its poison breath directly at the injured man on the ground. Yuhin sees it coming. He has to choose between a lethal counterattack or protecting his brother. He chooses the protection. He burns his mana to manifest a giant shield, absorbing the toxic blast that would have turned Yujin to ash. The poison is potent. Even through the shield, the corrosive mist begins to eat away at Yuhin's armor. Yujin screams for him to move, to fight properly, but Yuhin won't budge. He's anchored by his brother's weakness. The dragon seizes the opening, slamming its massive claws into the hunter. Yuhin takes the hit full on, refusing to let the shockwave hit Yujin. Blood drips from Yuhin's sword. He's taking damage he shouldn't be, all because he's acting as a human shield. Yujin realizes the truth. His presence isn't just a burden, it's a death sentence for the only person who came to save him. Yuhin continues the onslaught, but his movements are becoming strained. The dragon is wearing him down by targeting the hostage. The violet flames flare up again as Yuhin tries to end the fight quickly, but the dragon is relentless. Yujin looks up, expecting comfort, but he finds only a cold, furious glare. His brother is angry, but the words that follow cut deeper than any claw. Yuhin demands to know why he keeps coming back to dungeons, why he can't just stay away and live a quiet life. He looks at the blood-soaked floor and the broken men around them. To Yuhin, this is just another mess he has to clean up. The resentment in his voice is palpable. He's tired of being the protector of a man who seemingly wants to die. Yujin's heart sinks. He came here to prove something, to find a way to stand on his own, but all he did was drag his brother into the mud. Yuhin tells him to get to the corner and stay out of the way. It's a command, not a request. Yujin realizes that in his brother's eyes, he's nothing more than a liability, a piece of baggage that's finally starting to break. He wonders why he even expected a warm reunion. In this world, weakness is a sin, and he's the ultimate sinner. The dragon prepares for another charge. The cavern is lit by the glow of impending death. Yujin looks at his broken legs. He's finished. There's no more running, and no more pretending he belongs here. He reaches for his weapon, a broken sword that looks like a toy compared to the S-rank gear his brother wields. Yuhin's eyes widen as he sees what his brother is about to do. For the first time, the hunter looks truly afraid. Yujin makes a choice. If he is the reason his brother is going to die, then the solution is simple. He tells Yujin to run, to leave him behind and save himself. The dragon is already closing the distance. He lets go of the sword. He lets go of the hope of being a hunter. He lets go of everything. He stands defenseless before the beast. If he dies here, the burden on his brother is finally lifted. He thinks about the funeral, the guilt, and the freedom his brother will finally have. It's a twisted sacrifice, but it's all he has left to give. The memories of their childhood flash by, a time when they were just brothers before the ranks in the system tore them apart. The dragon lunges. Its jaws are wide, a tunnel of teeth and shadow designed to swallow the world. Yujin closes his eyes and waits for the end. He's ready. He's sick of the struggle, sick of being the anchor. A massive burst of violet energy erupts, but it's not an attack. It's a desperate, frantic surge of power. The cavern is consumed by the blast. The sound is deafening, a roar of mana that dwarfs the dragon's own voice. Silence follows. Blood drips onto the cold stone floor, the only sound in the aftermath of the explosion. Yujin opens his eyes. He's still alive. He doesn't understand why. He looks up and his heart stops. The world around him is a ruin of fire and ash. Yuhyun is standing right in front of him, but he's not fighting anymore. He's been impaled, his body acting as the final shield to keep the dragon away from his brother. Yuhin and I, we were all each other had left in this world. After our parents died, the silence in our home was deafening. I was the older brother. I was supposed to be the pillar, but even at the funeral, he was the one looking out for me, making sure I was holding it together. He'd ask if I was hungry. his small hand gripping mine like a lifeline. Now, in the depths of a rank S dungeon, he's still the one worrying about me. Blood is everywhere. His blood. The nightmare I can't wake up from. Behind him, the Rauktar's looms, a titan of flame and scales, the butcher of this raid. My hands are useless. My heart is a drum of pure, vibrating panic. He's gasping, telling me the monster's patterns. He wants me to hide. He's planning my survival while his life leaks out onto the cold dungeon stone. I remember every bitter moment. The hospital stays he never visited, the way he pushed me away, treating me like a nuisance rather than family. I thought he'd grown cold. I thought the S-class power had burned away his humanity. He reaches into his coat, pulling out a glowing amber stone, a gate stone, my ticket out of this grave. He forces it into my hand, his fingers slick and trembling. I tell him he needs to use it. We need to get him to a healer before it's too late. He just leans into me, his strength finally failing. He tells me it's no use. He knows he's already gone. His hand slides down my shoulder, leaving a trail of warmth that feels like a curse. Yuhin, no! Don't you dare leave me like this. I'm an F-rank miner. I'm nothing without him. The light in his eyes flickers out, and the world goes silent. Then the system screams. A title I ignored is triggering. Nurturer's additional skill. Final requital. Duration 1 hour. A vortex of mana erupts, blue light tearing through the shadows of the dungeon. The abilities of the deceased Han Yuhin are being transferred to me twofold. It's not just power, it's his memories, his pain, his everything flooding into me. I feel the surge. It's violent, overwhelming, and terrifyingly perfect. The dragon thinks it's won. It's about to face a nightmare it can't conceive. You dumbass, why did you have to carry all of this alone? I can feel the mana burning in my veins, twice as intense as anything an S-class should handle. I grab the spear, the weapon vibrating with the echo of his soul. For the next hour, I'm the strongest thing in this dungeon. You really protected me until your very last breath, didn't you? The Rauktar's roars, but its voice is nothing but noise against the fury in my head. I don't just charge. I move with a grace and speed that defies the laws of this world. I strike with everything he was and everything I've become in his absence. I'm faster than it can track, faster than death itself. I'm twice as strong as the world's greatest hunter. One strike, one kill. The Titan falls. As the power flows, so do his memories. The truth starts to leak in. He kept me away because hunters aren't protected by the law. He made himself the villain so I wouldn't follow him into this nightmare. He was fighting a war on 2 fronts, and I was his only weakness. Every cold word was a shield he built to keep me from this life. Every time he pushed me away, he was trying to save me.
He was just a kid himself, carrying the weight of the world to keep me safe. He watched over me from the shadows, even when I was at my absolute worst. He took the hits so I wouldn't have to. He instructed his guild to keep me out, to make me hate the world he lived in. He played the part of the arrogant S-class perfectly. And he cried in the dark, apologizing to a brother who would never hear him. He just wanted me to live a normal life. That was all. The rain starts to fall inside the crumbling dungeon ruins. The dragon is dead. The hour is almost up. I'm sitting on the corpse of a legend, holding the only person who ever truly loved me. You dunce! You should have just told me the truth. I was so blinded by my own resentment that I never saw your sacrifice. He's cold. The mana is leaving me, and the reality is setting in. The poison gas is filling the room. I don't even care anymore. Then the system rewards window pops up. An impossible feat achieved. Legendary title. Dragon Slayer. Rewards are flooding in.
And the grand prize, a wishing stone. It can grant any one wish. Any wish. My heart hammers against my ribs. I scream at the system to bring him back, to reverse this death. But it's impossible to bring a dead person back to life.
The system is binary. Then what's the point of all this power? I could use this to become the new hero, to stand at the top of the food chain. I could have the fame and the honor I spent years envying from the gutters. None of it matters without him here to see it. I don't want the future. I want the past back. Turn back time, before the dungeons, before the awakening, before the lies, before he had to become a monster just to keep me safe. The system asks for confirmation, a complete regression. Yes, take everything, just give me my brother back. I close my eyes as the light consumes the world around me. I wake up with a gasp, my lungs burning as if I've just finished a marathon. The air is clean, no blood, no poison gas. This office, it's the Hyon Guild headquarters. I check my hands. No status window, no borrowed S-class mana. I look at my phone. 12:18. It's really 5 years ago. This is the day I went to that awakening broker, the day I hit rock bottom. I remember being dragged back here, pathetic and desperate to belong. Wait, if the timeline holds, then he's about to walk through that door. I hear footsteps approaching, heavy, familiar, and very much alive. The handle turns. This is it. I hold my breath, terrified this is just a dying hallucination. Then I hear his voice, scolding me for my reckless behavior. Yuhyun, he's standing right there, in the flesh. He looks so young. The weight of his guild hasn't crushed him yet. I don't even wait for him to finish his lecture. I'm back. I'm really back. He's stunned, completely frozen by the sudden contact. I bury my face in his shoulder just to make sure he's real. I'm sorry for everything I put you through in that other life. I was such an immature brat. I didn't see the burden you carried. He thinks I've caused more trouble, that I've finally lost my mind. He's barely 20 here. He shouldn't have to be a savior for everyone, and he shouldn't have to face the darkness alone anymore. As your older brother, I should have known what you were going through. I tell him he doesn't have to worry about me anymore. I'll be different. He doesn't understand, but he stops fighting the hug. He hugs me back, his guard finally dropping just a fraction. The relief is better than any skill I've ever felt. I have a second chance. I won't waste it on jealousy or hate. We were brothers like no other, and I'm going to make sure it stays that way. I love you, Yuhyun, more than you'll ever know. But then, a system window appears in my vision. Han Yu-jin has been registered as an awakened. Wait, what? This wasn't supposed to happen.